The Atlantic Ocean, vast, restless, unforgiving, powerful, endless, alive. It exists between continents, beneath storms, and beyond familiar coastlines as one of the most dominant forces on Earth. This is not just water. It is movement, pressure, history, and danger, merged into a single living system. Welcome to Top Unseen Planet, where we go beyond maps, beyond shorelines, and beyond what feels safe to explore the most extreme and mysterious environments on our planet. Today, our journey takes us into the heart of the Atlantic Ocean, an ocean that connects worlds, drives global climate, and generates some of the most violent storms ever recorded. From powerful surface currents to crushing depths below, the Atlantic is a place where distance magnifies danger, and nature sets the rules. So what lies beneath these restless waters? How does life survive in an ocean shaped by constant motion and immense pressure? And why has the Atlantic become both a lifeline for civilizations and a graveyard for countless ships? This is an ocean that never rests, an ocean that challenges explorers, reshapes coastlines, and hides untold stories beneath its waves. Join us as we explore the Atlantic Ocean, its power, its mysteries, and the forces that make it one of the most unforgiving seas on Earth. The Atlantic Ocean is not just a body of water. It is a force that has shaped continents, climates, and human history for centuries. Covering an area of over 106 million square kilometers, the Atlantic is the second largest ocean on Earth, stretching between the Americas to the west and Europe and Africa to the east. It connects the Arctic Ocean in the north to the Southern Ocean in the south, forming one of the most dynamic and influential marine systems on the planet. Across this immense span, the Atlantic crosses multiple climate zones, from frozen polar waters to violent mid-latitude storm belts and warm tropical seas. This ocean is defined by movement. Powerful currents such as the Gulf Stream transport massive amounts of heat across thousands of kilometers, influencing weather patterns across North America and Europe. As these currents help regulate global climate, but they also fuel instability. Many of the world's strongest extratropical storms and hurricanes either form in or draw energy from Atlantic waters, making it one of the most dangerous and unpredictable oceans on Earth. Below the surface, the scale becomes even more overwhelming. The Atlantic contains vast abyssal plains and deep ocean basins with an average depth of about 3,600 meters and trenches exceeding 8,000 meters in places. Cutting through its center lies the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, an underwater mountain chain stretching more than 16,000 kilometers, where tectonic plates slowly pull apart, and new oceanic crust is continuously created. Pressure, darkness, and cold dominate these depths, shaping life in extreme and still mysterious ways. The Atlantic is also an ocean of survival. Marine life here is adapted to constant change, shifting temperatures, powerful currents, and frequent storms. From microscopic plankton forming the foundation of the food web, to large migratory predators traveling thousands of kilometers each year, survival depends on precise timing, movement, and endurance. But the Atlantic is not only a natural system, it is also an ocean deeply marked by human ambition, exploration, trade, migration, and loss. For centuries, it has served as the world's main corridor for movement and commerce, and thousands of shipwrecks now rest on its seafloor, silent records of exploration, war, and disaster. The Atlantic Ocean does not offer balance or calm. It offers challenge. Between continents, between histories, and between climates, it remains a vast living system, powerful, unpredictable, and beyond human control. This is the Atlantic, essential to the planet and never truly at rest. How was the Atlantic Ocean discovered? How did humanity first realize that an immense ocean stretched beyond the western horizon? And what convinced early explorers that this unknown sea could be crossed rather than feared? Long before it had a name, the Atlantic was seen as a boundary of the world. To ancient Mediterranean civilizations, the waters beyond the Strait of Gibraltar marked the end of the known map. What lay farther west was believed to be endless, dangerous, and unknowable. The Atlantic was not discovered in a single voyage. It was revealed slowly, through repeated risk. Early seafarers, such as the Phoenicians, ventured beyond familiar coastlines, navigating by stars and coastal currents. Their journeys proved the sea did not immediately consume those who entered it. Centuries later, Norse explorers crossed the North Atlantic, reaching Iceland, Greenland, and even the shores of North America, demonstrating that vast lands existed beyond the open ocean. Yet the true scale of the Atlantic remained unclear. It was during the 15th century age of exploration that understanding changed dramatically. European navigators began crossing open waters regularly, guided by wind patterns and ocean currents. These voyages transformed the Atlantic from a feared edge into a navigable space, connecting continents rather than separating them. As crossings increased, coastlines were charted, distances measured, and recurring currents observed. The Atlantic became defined not by myth, but by experience. Why has the Atlantic Ocean earned a reputation as one of the most dangerous oceans on Earth? Because here, movement never stops, and stability is an illusion. The Atlantic is an ocean driven by constant energy. Powerful wind systems, shifting pressure zones, and long-distance currents collide across its surface. These interactions create some of the most violent marine conditions on the planet. Waves can rise 20 to 30 meters high. Storms can expand across entire regions, and calm seas can transform into chaos within hours. This danger begins with weather. The Atlantic is a birthplace of major storm systems. Tropical storms and hurricanes form over warm waters, drawing energy as they move westward, while massive extratropical storms dominate the North Atlantic, especially during winter. These systems generate extreme winds, towering waves and sudden drops in visibility, conditions that have overwhelmed ships for centuries. But the threat is not only above the surface. Below, the Atlantic is shaped by immense and often invisible forces. Strong currents, such as the Gulf Stream, move vast volumes of water at high speed, creating sharp temperature contrasts and unstable conditions. Where currents collide, the sea becomes unpredictable. Waves steepen, swells intersect, and navigation becomes dangerously complex. Depth adds another layer of risk. Much of the Atlantic drops rapidly into deep basins, where the seafloor lies 3,000 to 5,000 meters below the surface. In these regions, rescue is nearly impossible. Communication is limited, and even modern technology struggles against pressure, darkness, and cold. A single mistake here can become irreversible. And the Atlantic is also an ocean of narrow passages, straits, continental shelves, and busy shipping corridors that compress traffic into confined spaces where weather, currents, and human activity intersect. Many of the world's most notorious shipwreck zones lie within Atlantic waters shaped by storms, poor visibility, and hidden underwater terrain. What makes the Atlantic especially dangerous is its dual nature. It connects continents and sustains global climate, yet it punishes hesitation. It offers routes for trade and exploration, yet demands precision and respect. The same currents that regulate weather can destroy vessels. The same winds that drive navigation can erase entire fleets. The Atlantic does not tolerate complacency. It is an ocean where power is constant, danger is mobile, win and survival depends on understanding forces that cannot be seen, only felt. This is the Atlantic as a dangerous ocean, not because it seeks destruction, but because it never slows down. What happens when the light disappears? What lies beneath the restless surface of the Atlantic Ocean, far beyond waves, storms, and human reach? Just below the surface, the Atlantic begins to change. Sunlight fades rapidly, colors vanish, pressure increases, and the familiar world gives way to something far more extreme. At depths of just 200 meters, light becomes scarce. By 1,000 meters, darkness is nearly absolute. Here, the ocean is no longer shaped by weather, but by pressure, cold, and isolation. Temperatures hover near freezing, and every square meter is compressed by forces dozens to hundreds of times greater than at the surface. This is not an empty world. Beneath the Atlantic lie vast abyssal plains, deep basins stretching for thousands of kilometers, where the seafloor rests at 3,000 to 5,000 meters below the surface. Life here moves slowly, conserves energy, and survives on scarcity. Food arrives rarely, drifting down as organic debris from far above. Cutting through the heart of the ocean is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, an immense underwater mountain chain more than 16,000 kilometers long. Along this ridge, tectonic plates slowly pull apart, releasing heat from deep within the Earth. Here, in total darkness, hydrothermal vents support ecosystems independent of sunlight, powered not by photosynthesis, but by chemistry. Pressure defines everything. At depths beyond 4,000 meters, the weight of the ocean becomes crushing. One wrong movement, one structural failure, and survival becomes impossible. Even modern submersibles are pushed to their limits. Vast areas of the Atlantic sea floor remain unmapped, unseen, and unexplored. And yet, life persists. Strange specialized organisms dominate this realm. Transparent bodies, slow movements, heightened senses. Many species have never been fully studied. Some have never been named. The deep Atlantic remains one of the least understood environments on Earth. Below the surface, the Atlantic is not violent like its storms above. It is silent, immense, and relentless. A place where time slows, where pressure replaces motion, and where the ocean reveals its true scale. This is the Atlantic below the surface, not empty, not lifeless, but profoundly unknown. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean lies a world almost untouched by human eyes, a realm of darkness, crushing pressure, and silence. Here, sunlight never reaches. Temperatures remain near freezing. Everything moves slowly, shaped by conditions that would destroy life anywhere else. Yet this hidden world is alive, with an ecosystem both fragile and extraordinary. The foundation of life begins with marine snow, tiny fragments of organic matter drifting from the surface and slowly falling through the water column. This constant rain feeds countless small organisms that float and flicker in the dark, forming the base of a food chain that stretches across the deep ocean. Along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, volcanic activity creates hydrothermal vents, cracks in the seafloor that release mineral-rich, superheated water. Around these vents, life thrives without sunlight. Microbes use chemical energy instead of photosynthesis, supporting communities of worms, crustaceans, and other species perfectly adapted to extreme heat and minerals. Each vent forms a small, isolated world where unique organisms evolve in total darkness. Beyond the vents lie vast abyssal plains, calm, empty-looking deserts of fine sediment. But beneath the still surface, slow-moving creatures feed, hide, and wait. Their bodies are adapted to conserve energy. Their movements are deliberate, shaped by scarcity and cold. Some bury themselves. Others float just above the seabed, invisible in black water. Rising from these plains are submerged mountains, seamounts that create rare hotspots of life. When deep currents collide with their slopes, nutrients rise toward shallower waters, attracting fish, corals, and filter feeders that cling to rock faces. These isolated peaks act like underwater islands, each developing its own community. In the deepest trenches of the Atlantic, life becomes even stranger. Animals here may glow with bioluminescence, have transparent skin, or lack bones strong enough to resist pressure, adaptations found nowhere near the surface. Sound travels differently. The silence feels ancient, as if the deep preserves echoes of Earth's earliest history. Despite centuries of exploration, most of this ecosystem remains unseen. Vast regions are unmapped, and countless species are yet to be discovered. Every expedition reveals something new, proof that the Atlantic's deepest places remain one of the last true frontiers of the natural world. The deep Atlantic is not emptiness. It is a hidden universe, quiet, resilient, and full of secrets waiting to rise from the darkness. The Atlantic Ocean is more than a stretch of water between continents. It is a vast living engine that nurtures some of the greatest giants ever to move through the sea. From the cold northern currents to the warm southern depths, the Atlantic creates conditions that allow massive creatures to grow, migrate, and thrive in ways that seem almost impossible. Its power begins with movement. The Atlantic's currents swirl across thousands of kilometers, carrying nutrients upward from the deep and circulating life from one hemisphere to the other. These currents feed entire food chains, creating rich feeding grounds where enormous marine animals gather year after year. In places where cold meets warm, the ocean becomes a crossroads of life, an arena for Earth's largest swimmers. The heart of this abundance lies beneath the surface. The upwellings bring nutrients from the seafloor to the light-filled waters above, igniting blooms of plankton and drawing in schools of fish that stretch for kilometers. And where food is plentiful, giants follow. Whether gliding through open water or diving into the dark, these massive creatures depend on the Atlantic's rhythm. Its seasons, its temperatures, its invisible rivers of current. Yet the Atlantic does not give easily. Its beauty hides storms capable of reshaping entire coastlines. Waves rise like walls, winds carve through the surface. Darkness descends quickly in the deep. Only the strongest, most perfectly adapted animals survive the challenges this ocean creates. But it is precisely these extremes, the pressure, the cold, the shifting currents that shape and sustain the giants who call it home. For millions of years, the Atlantic has served as a cradle, a hunting ground, and a migratory highway for creatures of immense scale. Some travel thousands of kilometers each year, guided by instincts older than human history. Others dive into trenches and rise again, feeding on life that flourishes in the dark. All move within a system far larger and more powerful than themselves. The Atlantic is not just an ocean. It is a world-building force, a place where giants are shaped, challenged, and ultimately sustained by the vast, mysterious engine beneath the waves. Beneath the Atlantic's shimmering surface lies a vast expanse of unpredictability. While its beauty is undeniable, the ocean can be unforgiving. For explorers, scientists, and sailors, it has always been both a frontier and a trial by nature. The first challenge comes from violent weather systems that form over its waters. The Atlantic is the birthplace of many of the world's most powerful hurricanes, cyclones, and tropical storms. These systems can churn the sea into towering walls of water with winds that can rip apart ships and halt expeditions for weeks. Even in calmer seasons, sudden squalls and rogue waves, massive solitary walls of water that appear without warning, remain a constant danger. Beneath the waves, the geology of the Atlantic presents its own hazards. Deep trenches like the Puerto Rico Trench or fracture zones reach crushing depths, where pressure can exceed 1,000 times that at the surface. Any mechanical failure here can mean instant disaster for submersibles and equipment. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, while a site of great scientific interest, is also a tectonically active zone. Earthquakes and underwater volcanic eruptions can reshape the seafloor, creating hazards for divers and remotely operated vehicles. Then there are biological dangers. While most marine life is harmless, certain regions harbor predators like sharks, deep-sea squid, and venomous creatures that can pose serious threats. In some areas, dense blooms of jellyfish can clog equipment or disorient divers. Explorers also face logistical and technological challenges. The Atlantic is vast. In many of its most intriguing sites, from hydrothermal vents to sunken ruins, lie far from any port or base of operations. Reaching them often requires weeks at sea, sophisticated mapping tools, and precise timing to align with favorable conditions. Equipment must withstand extreme cold, high pressure, and corrosive salt water, while operating far beyond human reach. The human factor cannot be underestimated. Spending days or weeks in confined vessels, navigating in near total darkness, and working under high stress can strain both body and mind. Fatigue, disorientation, and isolation are as real as any physical threat. Despite these dangers, exploration continues, not because the risks are small, but because the rewards are immense. Every expedition deep into the Atlantic has the potential to reveal new species, uncover lost history, or deepen our understanding of the planet's changing climate. In the end, the Atlantic's hazards are not obstacles to fear, but challenges to respect. They remind us that the ocean is a living, shifting force, one that demands preparation, humility, and a willingness to adapt. For those who venture into its depths, the Atlantic offers no guarantees. Only the promise of discovery for those brave enough to face it. Far beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean lies a hidden world, a vast chain of submerged mountains rising from complete darkness. Though invisible from above, these underwater giants stretch for thousands of kilometers, forming a landscape as rugged and dramatic as any mountain range on land. Down here, sunlight never reaches. Pressure crushes anything unprepared, and silence rules every corner of the deep. At the center of this world is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the longest continuous mountain range on Earth. It runs like a spine through the ocean, splitting the seafloor into two halves. Here, tectonic plates slowly pull apart, allowing molten rock to rise from deep within the earth. New crust forms. Volcanoes erupt quietly in darkness. The ocean floor reshapes itself inch by inch. These mountains grow, collapse, and shift in rhythms older than any continent above them. But the ridge is only one part of the story. Across the Atlantic floor lie hundreds of seamounts, isolated peaks rising thousands of meters from the abyss. Some once stood above sea level as volcanic islands before sinking back into the deep. Others remain entirely hidden, known only from vague sonar scans. Their slopes are steep, carved by ancient eruptions and landslides lost to time. Many have never been explored, their true shapes still unknown. These submerged mountains guide the ocean itself. As deep currents strike their slopes, water is forced upward, carrying nutrients from the abyss to shallower layers. This movement creates rare pockets of life, ecosystems thriving in total darkness, fed not by sunlight, but by chemical reactions and slow-drifting particles. Many species that live around these mountains exist nowhere else, perfectly adapted to pressure and cold that would destroy life at the surface. Yet the Atlantic's hidden mountains are also a source of danger. Some peaks rise sharply from the deep, posing unseen risks to submarines and vessels. Volcanic activity still lingers along parts of the ridge. Tremors echo across the seafloor, and sudden collapses can send clouds of sediment rolling into the abyss like underwater avalanches. Instruments fail easily here. Magnetic anomalies distort navigation. Crushing pressure destroys equipment in seconds. And the greatest mystery is how little we truly know. Only a small portion of the Atlantic seafloor has been mapped in detail. Vast ridges, rift valleys, and collapsed volcanic domes remain unseen, nor are their shapes hidden beneath kilometers of water. Every expedition reveals something unexpected. A new peak, a deeper trench, a structure that defies simple explanation. These mountains are reminders of a truth often forgotten. The Atlantic is not just an ocean, it is a concealed continent beneath the waves. A world carved by fire, shaped in darkness, and still waiting to be understood. Deep in the darkest depths of the Atlantic Ocean, far below the reach of sunlight, lies one of the most extraordinary and mysterious features of the seafloor. The hydrothermal vents hidden along the mid-Atlantic ridge. These vents rise from cracks in the Earth's crust, releasing jets of superheated mineral-rich water into an ocean so cold it borders on freezing. Here, in a place where life should not exist, Entire ecosystems thrive in complete darkness. These vents form where tectonic plates slowly pull apart, creating fissures that allow seawater to seep deep into the crust. There, the water heats to extreme temperatures, dissolving metals and minerals before being forced upward again. When it erupts back into the ocean, it appears like black smoke. A boiling cloud swirling into the cold abyss. To the eye, the vents look like chimneys built from minerals, constantly growing and reshaping as hot water flows. Despite the hostile conditions, life gathers around them in astonishing density. Microbes near the vents perform chemosynthesis, creating energy from chemicals instead of sunlight. This chemical energy supports entire communities of organisms, from drifting larvae to hardened creatures clinging to vent walls. Many of these species exist nowhere else on Earth, adapted to a world of darkness, pressure, and intense heat. The vents themselves are unpredictable. Temperatures can reach over 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, yet surrounding water remains cold. Pressure is immense, crushing anything not built for the deep. Minerals accumulate rapidly, forming towering chimneys that can collapse without warning. Some vents erupt violently. Others fade silently, leaving behind abandoned structures like ruins on the seafloor. What makes these hydrothermal vents truly remarkable is how alien they feel. Their landscapes resemble something from another planet: shimmering heat, mineral towers, and creatures glowing faintly in the dark. Scientists believe similar environments may exist on distant moons and planets, making the Atlantic's vents a window into possibilities far beyond Earth. Still, much remains unknown. Many vents have never been seen, mapped only as faint sonar signals. Their ecosystems shift from year to year, changing with volcanic activity and the movement of the seafloor. Every new expedition uncovers something unexpected,